Hey guys, it's Crewman here. With inflation going through the roof and the current graphics card prices going to the moon and offering some of the worst value proposition we've seen in years, it's made me start thinking, how are you supposed to build a computer on a budget right now when there's basically nothing in terms of next gen performance that you can get for a reasonable price? So it made me start thinking. Now, I've seen a ton of videos on AMD's value propositions like the 6600, the 6650, the 6600 XT, etc. I wanted to go the nvidia route and see where we could start with. So what I wanted to start with was the 2060 Super, cheapest graphics card in nvidia's library that offers DLSS 2.0. I wanted to see what the value proposition was for it in 2023. So this is my test bench. You can see the specs up above. It was probably high end actually when the 2060 Super came out, but obviously now it's probably mid-range at best. Does a good job though of getting all of the proper benchmarks that I want, and it shows that you can still game on a budget. As always, when I run benchmarks, I don't like to show them up on the screen because I think it's a waste of time, and I just want to get the numbers, which is what you guys are concerned about. So let's get at it. Alright, so the first game we have is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Here are my settings. I went with high settings, and I'm going with 1440p for a lot of these, and you can see that it got 106 FPS. Now I know this game is CPU bound, but I think I have an at least decent CPU in it. 106 FPS is more than playable in this game. So now we're going to change the settings up. We're going to go to 4K resolution just out of curiosity to see how it's running. And we got 60 frames per second, so that's playable, which is kind of cool. So let's move on to Overwatch now. Overwatch is the typical game I use to test esports. If it works on Overwatch, it'll work on CSGO, Dota, League, etc. So here you can see the settings that I'm using. I'm going to try Ultra settings, and we're going to do 1440p because I know this game works well in 1080p, especially with this card because I've tried it with worse cards, so I feel like it's not worth testing. So let's see how it looks like. Alright, so there's no benchmark for this game, so I'm just going to show you some in-game footage. Here you can see me just kind of standing around before the action. Now let's get into the action. You can see him around about 100 to 115 frames per second. Now this is with upscaling on and 1440p, and that's pretty playable. I'm actually pretty happy with it, and I feel like you will see the same results in any other esports title, and this should enable you to buy most 1440p monitors and play with them without any issue. Okay, so we move on to Modern Warfare 2 / Warzone 2. You can see I have DLSS on because I think you need it for the 2060 Super, and you can see all my settings here. Ray tracing is obviously off as it is on every game, and I moved it to 1440p on the resolution so we can see what it gets. 72 frames per second, not the best for a multiplayer title, but it's not the worst. It's just okay. So let's bump it down to 1080p and see what we get. I know I've been testing a lot of the games on 1440 and I've been getting good results, but I think with Warzone, if we bump the frames down to 1080, I think we'll see a noticeable improvement and it should be playable. And as you can see, 95 frames per second. That is more than playable in a multiplayer title. So that is Call of Duty Warzone for you. Recommended in 1080p for this GPU. Alright, so just because you have a quote-unquote lower-end graphics card doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to play AAA titles. So we're going to test Cyberpunk 2077. And this is where DLSS is going to shine. So we bumped the resolution to 1440p actually, just because I wanted to see how it performs. We have DLSS on and ray tracing off. So let's see what we get in this single-player title. As you can see, we got 59 frames per second, which is exactly where you want to be considered play. So we're just going to do one more quick test. We're going to change the DLSS to quality instead of balance, and we're going to see what we get. Get another 10% performance at 65 frames per second. Again, more than playable on Cyberpunk 77. So now that we saw how it games, let's take a look at the price. So I'm going to go to eBay because that is the best place, one of the best places for you to buy a used GPU if you don't really know what you're doing. You know, I prefer something like Reddit over eBay for plenty of reasons, which I'll get into another time. But, you know, if you don't really know what you're doing, eBay is the best. It's easiest, and you can get what you want. I think you're looking at, from eBay, you're looking at between the $200 to $250 range. I would look at the price over anything. You know, I think all the models are basically the same. You just want to take a look at the card and see if it was in good shape. We see one here, a Founders Edition, which is pretty popular, 2060 Super for $240. It's not the worst deal either. So that's not a bad price point for the performance that you get. So that brings us to the question, should you buy a 2060 Super for gaming in 2023? Well, it depends strictly on your budget. If you have, say, the choice of either building a gaming PC or buying like a PlayStation 5, for example, you can only do one, you can't do the other, you're tight on your budget, I think the 2060 Super is a great way to go. And I think the PC that I ran these tests on can be had with a 2060 Super easily at the $500 price point. Now, you have to buy most of the parts used and you have to go hunting, but as you can see, you get much, much better performance PC than you would on any games on a ps5. And you can even do 4K in a pinch and get solid resolution on single player titles. I would not play any multiplayer titles in it, but you can do 4K if you really want to. So, in closing, I think the 2060 Super is actually a fantastic buy in 2023. You look at the horrible value proposition of the latest gen graphics cards. If you're not going to be playing, the latest titles in 4K and you need blazing fast frames, if you're just messing around with your friends, playing Fortnite or Call of Duty or even single player games on your own, you can literally get an entire 2060 Super computer, and you can make it work, can be upgradable in the future if you want. Like that computer that I ran it on is easily upgradable, and I've ran higher end graphics cards in it and it's done fantastic for less than the cost of a 4070 Ti by honestly probably about $300. That's almost 60% of the cost of the graphics card, and you get an entire computer and a pretty solid computer that'll last you for years as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I plan on doing quite a few more videos of older graphics cards in 2023 to see if they're worth buying, and I'm going to try to give people my opinion that the used market might be the better place to go for PC upgrades and skipping out on this current generation because the value proposition is so poor. Especially if your budget prevents you from buying one of these top-end graphics cards. I'm going to try to show you that you don't need to have the best graphics card to have a fantastic PC gaming experience. So, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I know your time is valuable. Please like and subscribe for more content like this. Hope you have a wonderful day, and Cryptman out.